Compared to the first part called The Witch, the second part has more action scenes and more explosive special effects. Last issue Jae-yoon destroyed the entire base with one person's strength. I thought that she was the strongest mutant. However, in The Witch 2, Jae-yoon's sister Cynthia's combat power directly exploded, even more powerful than her sister. At the beginning of the film, a tourist bus is driving on the highway. The girl never dreamed that the next thing that happened will change her life. The bus suddenly deviates from the road and enters a side road. By the time the people on the bus realize that something is wrong, it is already too late. In the smoke-filled car, the assailants knocked out all the passengers. To capture the girl, they went out of their way to kill the passenger and packaged the incident as a traffic accident. When the girl woke up, she found herself in a laboratory. She is the biological mother of Jae-yoon and Cynthia, the first generation of mutants, Dr. Beck's sister, ready to create more mutants with the child in her womb. More than a decade has passed. Jae-yoon destroyed the mutant base by himself to find the antidote. Soon after, a group of people came from another research base and slaughtered all the mutants inside. However, Cynthia awakens from her coma with her superb self-healing ability. For the first time in her life, she steps out of the lab, leaving bright red footprints on the snow. Everything in the outside world is new and unfamiliar to her, and she doesn't even know how to hide from the speeding cars. Soon, the car in front of her backed up, and several men came down and pulled Cynthia directly into the car. In the back was a woman named Kyung Hee, whose farm the gangsters wanted to take over and turn into a resort. The leading men saw Cynthia's expressionless face and blood-stained clothes and thought she was a lunatic from a psychiatric hospital, and then started to make a move on her. They do not know that this girl is an extremely dangerous person. As expected, the car lost control and plunged headlong into the forest. After an unknown amount of time, Kyung Hee slowly woke up. The last gang member is only half alive. Cynthia was about to kill him when Kyung Hee rushed to stop her and used her phone to call the police. Then she turned around and prepared to flee the scene, but she thought, after all, the girl saved her life, so it would be a bit unjust to leave her behind. So Kyung Hee called her uncle to come and get them. Uncle is a veterinarian. A glance at Cynthia's injuries are very serious. Brought back to the hospital and began the operation, with the shrapnel removed. Cynthia's body began to heal itself at a very fast pace. Such an amazing recovery ability, the uncle has never seen in decades of medical practice. On the way back to the farm, Cynthia was curious about everything in front of her, and was surprised to see the changing billboard. Inside the house, Kyung Hee habitually fights with her brother, and Cynthia almost breaks her brother's arm. Kyung Hee prepares a sumptuous dinner to entertain Cynthia. When they turn around, Cynthia has already eaten all the food on the table. News of the massacre at the lab and Cynthia's survival reaches Dr. Beck. She knows that these mutants are very dangerous and can do anything if they run outside. So she called Jo Hyun, and the big man on the side is her assistant, Tom. They are very strong, specializing in capture operations. Encounter the general mutant without Jo Hyun. Just Tom can easily handle. Dr. Beck had implanted a chip in Cynthia's head, and then gave Jo Hyun a tracker so that she could quickly locate it. Cynthia, who was at the farm, also had the same symptoms as her sister, but her ability was stronger than Jae-yoon's, and she could even stop time briefly, stopping all the dust in midair. Suddenly, several cars appeared outside the door. The gangster appeared at the farm with a group of minions. They came here for the very purpose of this land. Kyung Hee confronts them with a gun, but is soon brought under control and her brother is beaten up. The gangster takes out a contract for her to sign. Kyung Hee would rather die than sign. The farm was left by his dead father. At that moment, one of his men seems to have seen something terrible. In the middle of the night, a girl stood under the roof and looked at the ground from God's perspective. The gangster below was shocked and even began to worry about the girl's safety. Cynthia's face was expressionless as she leapt from the roof and stood unharmed in front of them. Cynthia slowly walked toward the fat man. A light kick. 300 pounds of fat directly flew out. The gang members could not believe their eyes. They just came back to their senses. Cynthia had already flashed to the front. The gangster with the baseball bat expressed his displeasure. The gangster was in a hurry and told everyone to flock to her. Cynthia didn't panic at all, kicked the 2-ton car and then knocked them away. The gangster was already pissed in fear. What kind of monster is this? Kyung Hee rushes over to stop her, and Cynthia stops and leaves him alive. On the other hand, Jo Hyun finds a friend from years ago and learns from him that 4 powerful mutants have come here and the massacre of the research base was their work, and their goal here is Cynthia. After last night's incident, the relationship between the three people further. As a foodie, Cynthia's eyes instantly lit up when she first came to the supermarket, and it was heaven for her. She found that the things here can be tried for free, so she ate all the things tried in the supermarket, the speed of making things completely unable to keep up. The scene once fell into an awkward. The gangster had suffered a big loss on the farm, and they always bullied others. How could he swallow this anger? When the gangster learned that Cynthia was the person wanted on the dark web, he brought his men to the veterinary clinic and cut off the uncle's finger to force him to tell Cynthia's information and then provide it to the buyer. When the gangster returned to his office, he was completely dumbfounded. The so-called buyers had already come to the door, and the newly purchased cell phone was crushed. After last night's encounter, the gangster soon realized that the four men in front of him were monsters, just like the girl, and he immediately revealed Cynthia's hiding place. The gangster thinks that he can do whatever he wants with the support of the mutants, so he shoots Kyung Hee dead. Little did they know that Jo Hyun's team had also set up an ambush here. In the moment Kyung Hee's brother left the house, 2 rockets flew towards Cynthia. Female mutant in the execution of the task cannot be allowed to mess up. She pulled up the twin swords and rushed. The man raised his gun and shot, but the woman's body was too fast for the naked eye to catch, and the gun became useless at this moment. The man decisively pulled out the knife and rushed up. Only 1 round, he received a knife in the thigh. The difference in strength made him unconvinced. During the fight, he received several more stabs. Even his handsome face was cut. The double-knife woman provoked him with a scornful look. The man took the opportunity to draw his gun and shoot. Finally, his throat was slit in the air during the fall. Double-knife woman backed down to the platform, coldly looking at the corpses below. The arrogant gangster wanted to kill Kyung Hee's brother as well. Suddenly a shot rang out and the gangster fell to the ground. It was Jo Hyun and Tom, who advised the gangster to leave the place as soon as possible. Before the gods fight and the mortals suffer, she laughed contemptuously and raised her hand. The fence behind her became broken and disintegrated in the air, turning into countless spikes, like a rainstorm, piercing all the gang members in an instant. Jo Hyun and the others saw this and opened fire, but the opponent's body was so fast that the gunshots had no effect on them. He was able to recover quickly from his broken fingers. The gangster who was shot on the ground took the opportunity to kill Kyung Hee's brother. Even though Jo Hyun defended him from the gun, a bullet pierced his chest. At this time, Cynthia woke up thinking about the past few days with her siblings. There is no doubt that this period is the happiest memory she has ever had. Looking at the cold bodies of the 2 siblings, Jo Hyun was also seriously injured and completely defeated. Cynthia's vengeful anger was completely ignited. Double Knife Woman was the first to rush up. Cynthia gave her a cold look and used her mind to immobilize her, ending her life with a single slash. The 2 remaining mutants looked Cynthia up and down, unable to see what she was capable of, but they soon found out. Cynthia blew off an entire arm of the man with her breath alone, and almost simultaneously, slapped Jo Hyun away. Cynthia, not feeling satisfied, goes back and crushes the gangster's other foot. Jo Hyun tried to take advantage of the opportunity to launch a sneak attack, but she did not expect that the other party did not even have to use their hands, but only used their minds to control her movements, and then stabbed the knife into her body again and again. The last mutant emerged from the ruins. This guy is still more or less capable. His broken arm can still be perfectly reborn. He tried to confront Cynthia with his own strength, and countless stones rose up from around him and smashed towards his opponent. Cynthia still looked indifferent, easily fixed the stones in the air. The terrible superpower made the stones crushed into particles. Then she raised her hand. The man was completely wrapped in the sand and dust, grinding him hard into a blood-colored powder. Jo Hyun realized her power at that moment. The arrogance she had just felt disappeared, and the endless fear made her back up. At that moment, a woman came down from the car. She was none other than the first generation witch and Cynthia's own sister. After a few years of absence, Ja Yun's face has a bit more confidence of a mature woman and still kills Jo Hyun with her best trick, so it was all arranged by Ja Yun. Since she was a bit injured at that time, she considered that it would be troublesome in case Cynthia launched a madness, so she got 4 men in black to massacre the base, and then followed Cynthia, which made sure she was her sister. Ja Yun although in multiple bases to find a large number of potions, but these can only extend a little time. Now the sisters have to go back to their mother for a bone marrow transplant so they can get rid of the headache for good. Remember to subscribe to my channel and I'll see you next time.